Welcome to State of Game, where we unpack games that may not have lived up to the hype at launch and see how it compares today. In this video, we're looking at Gotham Knights, developed by WB Montreal, and when we're done, we'll decide whether it's a smash or trash. This test was performed on a PlayStation 5 using a shared network and Ethernet connection in co-op mode in order to really stress test the fixes. Gotham Knights released on October 21st, 2022, with a Metacritic score of 68 out of 100 and a user score of only 4.8 out of 10. The game was critically panned for a myriad of issues, including, but not limited to, collectibles not unlocking, co-op connection stability, lack of variety in objectives, combat, and side activities, poor and inconsistent frame rate, slow loading, invincible enemies displaying a meditation animation, flickering textures while on bike, collision issues, overall UI issues, and crashes tied to mod fusing, network stability, as well as general crashing throughout the game. Patches were pushed out bi-weekly over the next 3 months in an attempt to remedy these issues. In addition to fixes for the performance issues, these patches also added dynamic range presets under the audio options that include settings for home theater, night mode, TV, and headphones. WB Montreal also released a free gameplay expansion in the form of Showdowns, which is a high-level boss rush mode, and Heroic Assault, a level-based arena-type mode offering up to 4 players in online co-op. We purchased the game on December 31st, 2022, and have since put in over 84 hours into the game, achieving both the Platinum and 100% completion of the added expansions. Let's take a look at how Gotham Knights stacks up today. I had read some people encountered issues with collectibles not registering when spread over their first playthrough and New Game Plus. So we planned in advance to get all collectibles during our initial run, which we achieved without any problems. I did, however, encounter an issue where, after completing all side missions, collectibles, and leveling, my last ability point never unlocked, so my character will forever be without the last unlockable skill. For the most part, Gotham Knights remained stable throughout, but we did encounter an issue a few times where the guest player got kicked randomly back to the main menu screen, regardless of which player was host. I'm not sure if this was due to poor network conditions or due to an issue in the game's network code. One of the initial complaints about Gotham Knights was that it lacked variety in its missions, combat structure, and side activities. But very rarely did I find myself getting bored and wishing for more variety, especially with access to Heroic Assault and Showdown so early in the story. The game already offered multiple forms of content including stealth missions, crime scene investigations, boss fights, environmental and timed puzzles, as well as many collectibles to hunt down, which in my opinion was the only sluggish part of completion. Heroic Assault and Showdowns were critiqued for offering very little challenge for players who had already gone through New Game Plus and achieved the level cap of 40. However, these additions offered an engaging distraction and alternative for grinding out better gear that we found ourselves returning to quite frequently during our initial run and beyond. Playing Heroic Assault cooperatively, using different characters that complement each other's abilities is the best way to experience the depth of the combat design that Gotham Knights has to offer. When playing on the PlayStation 5, the game maintains a nearly locked 30 frames per second, only occasionally stuttering when driving or gliding through a particularly dense area of the map. I would like to note that while the FPS is mostly stable, Gotham Knights can still feel a bit sluggish when traveling via motorcycle, but I'm not sure if that's by design or some sort of frame pacing issue. The initial reports of extended load times seem to still be fairly accurate today. There are load times between the Belfry and the open world and story missions, as well as Heroic Assault and Showdowns. Each of these can vary wildly between 10 and 30 seconds, sometimes even more. Generally, the load times between floors and Heroic Assault were decently quick, but in our experience, launching floors 29 and 30 took significantly longer, but your experience may vary. Patch notes indicated that environmental collision allowances were reduced to prevent player characters from getting stuck, but this was an issue that we encountered time and time again. When attempting to open loot chests that were tucked away in the corner, we would often get stuck trying to move out of each other's way, not to mention going through doorways or getting stuck on rogue furniture while trying to avoid detection during stealth missions. The following issues mentioned at the start of the video have been seemingly addressed or weren't noticeable during our playthrough. In our time playing Gotham Knights, we discovered a few other issues that weren't noted in either the aforementioned reviews or patch notes. During one Port of Owl's Den mission in co-op, I interacted with a door and it did not animate or open for the guest. We were never able to reproduce this situation again despite the numerous den missions we completed. The game design allows for the guests to return to their single-player instance with the option to either skip the missions they completed in co-op or play them on their own, but this system was at best buggy. Sometimes all progress made would save, but other times it would completely leave out huge unlocks made by the guest, such as the Showdown missions and Heroic Assault, even though the story missions past those had already been unlocked. In some of our larger gaming sessions, when the guests would return to their version of the game, it would hang forever on a black screen instead of loading where the skip mission screen should appear, forcing the guests to restart their game. The party system provides options to disband the party along with the capability to kick a party member. The distinction between these two is important. If you kick a party member, they will be unable to rejoin your party during the same game session. I imagine that isn't an attempt to thwart online harassment. It's also important to properly disband the party before quitting the game. I was able to successfully crash the guest game multiple times by shutting down my system before disbanding the party or allowing them to move back to their world. When the guest game crashed, they would be stuck on a blank black screen indefinitely, or until they closed their game completely from the PlayStation home screen. One of the more bizarre things we experienced was during a particularly intense story mission that required precise navigation of some environmental hazards. The guest camera became locked in place after loading into the area, and no matter what we tried, we couldn't regain control over the camera until the mission ended. Every time I would initiate fast traveling as the host after the guests had already initiated their fast travel, my character would appear in a puff of smoke floating in the air in the guest game before my fast travel vehicle would appear. Side note, my wife finds this to be absolutely hysterical and has about 30 videos saved of it. Earlier I mentioned that a considerable amount of work was done to improve frame rate and the overall stability of the game. I noticed that when playing as the guest occasionally, cars would disappear in front of me when traveling by bike. This could be due to a memory dump, or perhaps it was done intentionally to mitigate frame rate drops. Gotham Knights is in a weird place. Many gamers expected this title to play much more similar to the Batman Arkham games than it does, which is understandable since, it was created by the team that made the prequel to the Rocksteady entries. To their credit, WB Games Montreal set out to create a cooperative title that has, at times, bit off a little more than the game engine can chew, but I would argue that they nailed the vibe of playing as the Bat family with your friends. So now the real question is whether Gotham Knights in its current state is worth your time. Well, despite some of the more bizarre issues we encountered, especially if you're a Batman fan, and taking into account the addition of Heroic Assault and Showdowns, this game is a smash. If you do have the ability to play through in co-op, I'd highly recommend it. Well, that's all I have for now. If you have a game in mind that you would like to see featured in this series, please tell me in the comments below. Your support means the world to me. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more gaming and tech content. Until next time, don't have a good day. Have a great day.